everyone. Good evening to those who are joining us from India, and good afternoon to those who are joining us from Finland. I'm Arzu, Community Manager and International Ecosystems Manager at Headstart. I'm sure we have met a couple of times in the IFSH series before. If you're joining us for the first time, it must be because gaming is of an interest to you. So welcome to another session by India Finland Startup Hub. Since the time we have started these knowledge sessions, a session on gaming has always been on our cards, and glad to see it finally happening today. And because when you hear about Finland, probably gaming is one of the top 5 words in your mind, and really happy to see the panel we have put together for the session and the agenda that's in place. We have limited time and a lot on our agenda, as you have seen in the screen before. So without further ado, let me quickly call upon Hanna Riski from Business Finland to set the tone for today's session.
Thank you very much, Arzu, and good afternoon, everybody. Also from Business Finland side, my name is Hanna Riski, and I work here at Business Finland in our Work in Finland unit. And my job is to attract foreign startups to Finland. Business Finland has been collaborating with the Indian Headstart already since last year, and the collaboration is ongoing. As we can see, this webinar today is just one example of the things that we are doing together. It's truly great to have you here today to learn more about the gaming industry in Finland and in India. We have very inspirational speakers, for example, from Business Finland, Tampere Game Hub, and Indian gaming companies. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. You can use the chat. You can contact us and the speakers also later on, for example, via social media. It would be great to have a really interactive session today. We have also gathered a feedback questionnaire, which I will ask you to fill in at the end of the session, and I will add the link to the questionnaire to the chat. But really great to have you here. I'm really interested and eager to hear our presenters today. So great, we can move on. Thank you, Arzu.
Thanks, Hannah. Before we move ahead, let me quickly share a word or two about India Finland Startup Hub. It's a collaboration by Business Finland and Startup India, powered by Headstart Network Foundation. We've been hosting these knowledge series to help founders from India and Finland learn about the opportunities in both the countries. You can find our previous sessions on our YouTube channel as well. And before we move ahead, if I can ask Santri and Ronak from Startup India to maybe quickly say hi to our participants, if you guys are here.
Hi everyone. My name is Ronik Jasinghani. As I'm sure you can see, I am from the Startup India team. And I would just like to thank everyone for being here today. As it was just mentioned by Arzu, the India Finland Startup Hub is, I'm not going to take a lot of time, but it's just a platform to sort of help entrepreneurs on both sides to grow and collaborate in both countries. Today's session is gaming as an industry, so we'll stick to that. Now, ironically, I was just day before in Helsinki myself, and I can definitely validate the fact that it is one of the most conducive environments for startups to grow. So really looking forward to this collaborative session, and I would like to thank Headstart for their support throughout. And yes, over to you. And thank you, everyone, and look forward to engaging with you. Happy to answer any questions for Startup India in particular. If anybody has, could put them in the chat window, and would be happy to take that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronak. Santri, do you want to also probably say a hi before we begin with our sessions, if you're around? All right, probably we'll get started with today's session then. So we have Olli Sinerma today with us, who is a senior advisor at Business Finland. His focus is on all things entertainment, I would say, games, movies, TV series, music, XR, and other creative industries. And he's going to take us to the what, why, how of developing games in Finland. Look forward to your session, Olli, and welcome to India Finland Startup Hub.
All right, excellent. Hey, thank you so much, Arzu. All right, let's see if I can handle the Zoom and put screen sharing on.
Yes, you can.
Yes, I hope you're seeing it now.
Yes, yes.
Sweet. All right, so the title of my presentation is about developing games in Finland. Originally, we were thinking if we would have like actual game developers here presenting, but then me and Tomi Toikka, who is doing another presentation right after me, were like, well, actually we are game developers both ourselves, so perhaps we can talk about the Finnish game industry with confidence. So to show you about like how vast Finnish game industry is and what kind of all projects we have, here on the background we have a Finnish Minecraft type of game from a local Helsinki developer. This one is Returnal. It's a company called Housemarque. They were one of the oldest Finnish game companies here until they were acquired last year by Sony. So now they are PlayStation 5 developer here. Then we have Remedy. This is the game Control. Remedy is currently a stock company. They develop a lot of games, most of them like really high-class AAA titles for the latest consoles. Most notable are like Max Payne and what else? Death Rally, for example, which I loved a lot, especially when it was a PC game in the 90s. Here is Noita. It's an indie developer called Nolla Games. They are 3 guys, and those of you who are developers yourselves or know a bit about coding, every pixel here is simulated with physics. So you can destroy the whole environment, and the world is vast. It's like a humongous environment where you can move without any loading screens. It's amazing coding feat. This one is a Legend of Grimrock, a company called Almost Human. They developed 2 games with this company, and then their system is just to form always a new company after they have developed 1 game, because the team is changing all the time and they want everybody to be able to both contribute and to gain something from the development. So shares are divided between all the developers. This is a game company from Tampere, the 2nd largest city here in Finland, and they're called Colossal Order. This is the game City Skylines. I think some of you have played it. Before this one, SimCity was the most famous city builder, but Finns took over, and later on Swedes after they acquired the Colossal Order guys through a company called Paradox. Just a couple more. This is from the lower end in a sense, because this is just 1 developer. The game is called Baba Is You. It's Hempuli is his developer name, and he created this on his own, and this part of the game has sold over 3 million copies or something like that. Amazing amount. It's a really intuitive and interesting game mechanic where you change the rules of the game by playing it. And this game is one of my own, I think 2nd last which I made before joining Business Finland, so it was called Pollen. It's one of the first virtual reality games in the world. It was a first-person space adventure in the sense of the Space Odyssey 2001. And here is a couple of more which I have made. I have been working in the Finnish game industry for 2 decades, so this far I think I'm running somewhere about 30 titles released this far. Most of them are mobile, but others on PC or other devices, be it handheld Game Boys or pretty much anything. And not probably, I don't think anybody knows any of these games. Maybe the one in the middle top, the Twilight games. At one point of my life, I created all the Twilight games there existed in the world. I think there was like 15 of them or something like that. But actually my most successful project was this one. It was a game recording service for mobile devices. So while we were playing mobile devices, you could record it and upload it to the internet. And later on, this was acquired by the Unity Technologies, this project. So that's my and the Finnish game industry background. Let's go a bit broader sense. So currently the game industry is projected to go somewhere beyond $257 billion by 2025. And game industry is interesting. So even though there is a bit of talk about recessions and maybe the economy slowing down, game industry has usually been very resilient in this kind of situation. So we are believing that it will continue that way in the future also. So instead of shrinking, the industry will just keep on growing. The Finnish take is currently about 2.4 billion euros. Sorry that my currencies are mixed here, but they are pretty close by at the moment. In Finland, we have about 200 game companies at the moment and a bit above 3,600 employees, and about a third of them are foreign. So from these companies, about a quarter of them is generating over 1 million euro turnover, and in the background, the public funding, which Business Finland is one of the givers, has been playing a big role. I will get to the public funding later on. So besides all of these Finnish companies, we also have all the players from around the globe. So if you have thinking like any game company in the world pretty much, which is huge, they have an office in Helsinki or otherwhere in Finland, be it NVIDIA, Electronic Arts, Wargame, Unity, so on and so on. And one of the big things, of course, which interests these companies to build in Finland is the public funding, which is also available for foreign companies if they are stationed in Finland. Some like secrets, what makes the Finnish companies so great is that we give a lot of responsibility for the developers. So we are known for really small teams that actually affect themselves what kind of games they are developing, because if you are not enjoying your game yourself, where you're making it, it's very unlikely that the people who are playing it will like it either. Even though those decisions are usually made by like a hunch, like this is something that might actually work, well, the results are then through analytics. So we do a lot of A/B testing, stuff is data driven, and well, that's how the smart companies work. You create stuff with imagination and check them through numbers that is my presumption how world works correct. And of course, something that affects all of the Finnish companies, be it game or whatever industry, Finland is very safe, stable country. Everybody speaks fluent English, high education, and of course, a lot of good incentives for people with families, for example. So free daycare, schools, medical services, and so on and so on. A lot is given from the government side. And even though the government gives a lot, so does the industry for the government. So the game industry has been growing humongously in Finland. And when we counted from our past 20 years, we have given about 125 million to the industry, and about the same amount of money had come as private investments. And on the right side, you see the turnover. So Finnish economy is creating about 2 billion euros or a bit above as tax revenue or turnover from the tax. Here are some funding services that Business Finland provides. So we have different levels of funding that we give to the companies depending on what they need and where they are. And besides of the funding, which is interesting, we also give coaching. So we can go through your project. We have people like me, for example, who have long careers in game industry and give some advice. There is at least 2 game industry focused venture capitalist companies in Finland, and a huge amount of like people who have made millions through developing games, who are pushing money back into the industry and starting new companies or helping fund others. Of course, we do a lot of global networking and matchmaking services. And the interesting thing about the Finnish game industry is that because Finland is a small country, we are 5.5 million people, there is no actual Finnish game market where to develop games. All our products are always globally available. So there is not a lot of interest to compete inside of Finland. Perhaps only on the employees who gives the best benefits, the best salary and so on. But otherwise people really much share what they learn. And that makes the industry so cool and very profitable and works excellent. I'm trying to find the real words, but I'll try to manage what I have. So about the Business Finland fundings, usually the first one game companies come for us is called Tempo. It's a 50,000 euro grant that is intended that you have a sort of a minimum viable product available and you want to do your test launch. Get some information on your game, how it works, performs in foreign markets, and fix it according to that. And after you have fixed it, it's usually easier because you then go to a VC and you have actual analytic numbers that you can show that this much of money was put in the marketing, this much it crunches through the system, and this is what we make out of it. So it enables a much better valuation when you go for a round B or round A. And after that part, then there are the loans. I have the loan number 100,000 euros there, but it's just an example because we don't have a minimum or maximum amount of loan, but we provide 50% of the costs that the game project might have, or usually a technological project that is required that you can create the game. So it's a 50% loan, but it's a way better loan, which what you would ever get from a bank. And in some cases, it can be also transferred into a grant. And like the final step for the ground jewels of Finnish game industry, we have the young innovative companies, which is grants and loans in total of 1.2 million. And the R&Ds can of course be larger than 1 million also. But what we require from the companies is that the companies, of course, in Finland, their IP stay in the Finnish company. They have some self-funding, their team is good, pretty much the same things that VCs also require on the team side and on the project side. So just to give a, let's see how fast I talk. I usually talk a lot faster than what I intend. So I have about 3 minutes now. So let's talk about like what is the industry in Finland at the moment, like on a personal level when you're working here. First of all, the companies are really equal. Like the CEO of Supercell, Kapanen, he says he's the least powerful CEO in the world because the teams themselves that develop games decide when the project is killed or is it launched. They have really high requirements on how to work on this, but it just gives an example that everybody has a voice. If you work in a game project, it's smart to give the people possibility to give their opinions and to test them out. The organizations are really flat. Also, an interesting part is that usually the companies, just to tie the people in, provide options which can be later on transferred into shares. So if the company really succeeds, well, that's a really good thing. You are not actually getting only your paycheck, you are also getting huge amount of other money, which an example has turned a lot of Supercell employees into millionaires, especially the first ones. These ones I already mentioned already, that we cooperate a lot in Finland. There's a lot of different organizations like the International Developers Association, Neo Games, Women in Games, Serious Gaming Cluster, and so on. Like a lot of ways to interact with people in the industry and talk. The most common one is over a beer and just sharing what you know and hearing what others have experienced in the same situation. Of course, the most important asset for a game company is the people working on the games. So they're taken really good care of. And that is what the companies especially put their money into, that the employees are happy here and that they are high quality. The education part, mentioned before, Finnish education is free. A lot of people have a university degree. Of course, programmers can learn just from the internet, but well, you can see from your GitHub or whatever service you use that what are your skills. There's a good community, like I mentioned, and of course the government support, which helps up the companies, not depending on what situation they are in, because we still help them from startups to grow companies to even to an IPO level, and even after that. So the current situation is that there is, well, this is on an old slide, there's over 3,600 or 3,700 people already, but there is all the time like room for 1,000 people more. There's a huge amount of growth companies here, so be a programmer, artist, live ops operator, monetization, Excel master, or whatever, there's definitely something for you here. And of course, like I mentioned, there's 30% of the Finnish industry is foreign, and a lot of people from India too. And we were actually talking with one person from Rovio if he could have been here, but unfortunately we couldn't get him to tell what it is to do Angry Birds. But I would be really happy to see more Indian in our industry. And if you have any questions, you can either reach me through email or my colleague Kari Korhonen, who also works in the game industry on Business Finland's side. And that's my last slide. I think I'm a bit early, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer at this point. Or is this the point where we ask questions, or is it later on? An operator answer me.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Olli. So we have a couple of questions in the chat. So if you would like to, take up.
Open the chat and check. Sure. Yeah. Let's see.
And then also, this is Sandri. Then we also have one hand raised. I think Aditya has raised his hand for the question.
Since we have a couple of minutes, it'll be good to have a few of them.
Sure. Let's see.
Aditya, I think you can answer.
Hi there. My name is Aditya. Thank you very much, Olli, for that wonderful presentation. My question had more to do with the grant. So, we're bootstrapped and we have our teams functioning out of India. And, we wanted to know what is the kind of requirement for us to seek the grant or for us to seek the next level, which is the loan? Do we need to really employ full-time employees out of Finland, or is it just that the IP gets registered and we continue to work remotely as most game developers do? So that's my question.
Okay, so for Business Finland funding, your company needs to be actually in Finland. It needs to be in the government registry here. And the minimum team we require is that you have at least 2 people working from the Finnish entity here. And after that, it's totally fine if the people are outsourced somewhere else. So that doesn't cause an issue. But the company needs to exist in Finland. All right, I think that was the question. And then can you please tell about concept artists in game industry, how to approach? Do you mean how to approach concept artists, or as a concept artist, how can you get into the industry? Perhaps the later one. So usual way is that you have probably an art portfolio. You have stuff that you have done for previous companies. You can just submit that to the game company that is looking for artists. Probably the best idea is to check different companies. For example, neogames.fi has a list of about 200 game companies in Finland. You can check which one has the style and typical game that your art would work for and email them. Just send them your portfolio and they will definitely get you back. Then there's a question.
We'll take a question from Vatsal, and probably we can then answer the questions in the chat.
All right, let's do so. Go ahead, Vatsal.
Hey, Olli. Good to be here. Interestingly, I set up a gaming company 2 years back called the Happiness Room, and we're partners with Epic Games for the Unreal Engine training program in India. Mm-hmm. So I do have an interest in gaming, and currently I'm actually building my second company, which is a more of a metaverse play. So it's called Rikasa, and we are investing in metaverse real estate. So it could be a gaming metaverse project, or it could be, any other project like a mall or any suite in the metaverse, and we acquire it, and then we issue NFTs at the Rikasa REIT level, so that decentralized and democratized ownership of that metaverse is possible. So one of the use cases for us is to invest in NFTs of gaming like metaverses. So is that something maybe I can connect with you on, separately, or if you have folks who might also be interested to participate, because we're currently raising a $2 million round. We've got $1 million committed, and I'm looking to close it by August 9th. And then with the money we get, we want to acquire assets, which are metaverse assets, and then tokenize them. So, and I do believe that gaming, the next frontier is the metaverse. Of course, with like Second Life already kind of explained that the metaverse exists. It's just that they don't have crypto, but they do have in-game purchases, right? And then you have other companies like Fortnite and Minecraft, like Travis Scott performed in Fortnite and made $20 million from one performance, So I'm just wondering, like, is this something of interest? And if so, how can we collaborate? Thanks.
All right, so thanks for the question. So metaverse, NFTs, blockchain, all of that, it's been really on the high rise in the game industry talks, especially on the play to earn model. which has raised a lot of interest. I think there is something like 6 or 7 companies, at least in Finland at the moment, developing NFT games. We also have a thing called Helsinki XR Center, which works on the virtual reality and the augmented reality side, which is really closely connected to whatever metaverse is going to be. And that is also like, what is metaverse going to be? I think it was John Riccitello who said that metaverse is an internet made by game developers. Just as a thought what it means. But so certainly we can discuss about it. Most of the funding that we provide is for technological development. So there might be an interest for perhaps some kind of tools to create NFTs for gaming or democratize the work behind it or something like that. That kind of stuff is what we usually fund. We do not fund like content. That doesn't suit us so well. So like creating stuff into a world is not something that our funding is available for.
All right. Thank you so much, Olli, for the brief introduction about the gaming industry in Finland. And we have a lot of questions, but unfortunately very limited time. So if you're staying around, please do answer a few of them in the chat if you find them relevant. And thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on, we have our next session with welcome to the India Finland session, Tomi. Let me quickly give a brief introduction about you. So he is the director at Tampere Game Hub, an organization dedicated to assisting the game industry of Tampere, Finland. They run the Finnish Game Incubator, a huge incubator program that connects game studios in Finland with industry experts and mentors. Really happy to have you here in the panel today. Over to you, Tomi. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. All right, let's get started. So I want to tell you all about like the second biggest city in Finland, Tampere, and why that might be relevant to you is basically because we think it kicks ass and it's better than Helsinki, but that's just my opinion. So I'm 28 years old, turning 29 next week, and I've been making games since I was 8 years old. So what I want to tell you today is go through a little presentation about why you should be thinking about, from an Indian perspective as well, looking to join us here in Tampere, Finland. There is a huge gaming cluster in Tampere. There's 46 game teams, studios, everything like that. There's well-established companies. Olli went through a couple of those, such as Colossal Order, making City Skylines. There's also another Paradox studio here, Ice Flake Studios. There's Tentons, who have been making kick-ass top-down shooters for 20 years now. So a little bit about how we work is we're a non-profit organization here to help you map all of this. All of these companies can be found online on tampere.games. And when you go there, you can actually see a lot of stuff there. You can see all the studios that are working on games at the moment, active events, everything is there laid out for you. But as briefly as I can, I will tell you a little bit how we run this stuff. So I just started as the CEO of Makea Games, and it's going pretty well. I won't tell you anything what we're working on because it's too good to show at the moment. And then we have Joni Lappalainen, the CEO of Dreamloop. They have been doing a lot of cool stuff, including, for example, they just ported The Ascent, a big game, to PS5, if I recall correctly. Then there's Pyry Takkunen, who is part of Boom Corp and also has his own company, Adjective Animal. So you can see a lot of startup entrepreneurs banding together to strengthen the regional cluster of gaming in Tampere. On top of that, we have a lot of, like, how do I say it, governmental support from the city, and as well a lot of organizations. For example, we entered into a sponsorship with Microsoft not too long ago. So the whole idea is I want to bring more game developers, especially foreign developers, to Tampere, more jobs and more companies to spawn from that. So we're providing opportunities. We have an incubator program that you can join at any time. As long as your company is situated in Finland, you are very welcome to join us, and we will get you all the best support you need. It's a 10-week course. It's pretty great. I'll tell you a little bit more about that a little further down the line. Networking events, we'll buy the beer, we'll buy the pizza, you bring all the cool stuff you're working on, and you get to meet other game developers. And we've got a lot of that, like a lot of auxiliary support. When things are going great, you can call me. When things are not going not so great, keep calling, I'll help you. And that's the whole idea here, a support group, a network for everybody in Tampere. So we also have business delegations that we're planning to go to different conferences, more on that later. And then we have Tampere Game Spaces, which is free office space to basically anybody making games in Tampere. More on that later as well. So 46 game studios and teams. I'd say we have around 200, 300 employees at the moment. The net revenue value, I know it's old, we need to upgrade the number, but it's significant though. There's a big cluster of game companies doing a lot of good money here. Over 50 release titles. I'd actually wager that's more close to 65. There's a lot of mobile game studios doing a lot of simpler games. There's also people making casino games, real money games. So a lot of released titles, you could say, for every platform ever. My last company was a virtual reality company, for example. So there's 4 schools. So bring your entire family and everybody gets to make games. Woo! That's the idea here. Like there is a strong support network with Finland. You get free healthcare. You get basically anything you need for these free schools. So what we want to bring to that mix that Finland already has, which is great, is these worldwide connections that we also have to these publishers and investors as part of those incubator programs that we run. So with this strong support, we can bring you everything. And here's something I coded. it's the Tampere Games, Tampere.games. If you go there right now, you can see 46 amazing game studios, everything they're working on, every single detail is over there. You can see that from that screenshot there used to be 37, but actually when we started Tampere Game Hub, we used to have only 33. So you can see making a regional cluster and mapping all this out has given us a better understanding. And 46 game studios at the moment is a huge amount of good game companies to apply to. So send your CVs over, definitely. You will find their contact information on the sidebar there. And if you're using mobile, you have to scroll a little bit further, but it's all there. So the goal is everything you need to get your game studio started, everything you need to get hired, everything you need to know where do you go to a school to learn all this stuff, and events when you want to meet other people. Everything's there. Go to Tampere.games. That is the biggest lesson of tonight. So I want to tell you a little bit about the incubator programs. We run one each year. We also had Pärnu Games Incubator, which was a pilot for an international version of this. But basically around November, every year we start Finnish Game Incubator, and any Finland-based company is welcome to join. We will help and coach you. All our mentors are investors and CEOs. They are marketing people from the game industry. They will give you one-on-one sparring every week. And at the end of it, at the demo day, you can see all these demo day videos on YouTube and at Tampere.games. You can see the games that we have kind of coached. But at the end of the day, at the end of the pitching session, you pitch, and then we connect you to more publishers and mentors. There was one game submitted to Finnish Game Awards that was coached by us, and another Among the Trolls, which is getting published by 505 Games. If I can name any examples, those would be the best ones. So every year we run Finnish Game Incubator, and you're more than welcome to join if you're based in Finland. The idea is just make confident decisions. We want them to be confident at pitching their games. And if there is an already established game company and it's kind of struggling, we'll help them deliver their game. And the idea is that usually investors and publishers, they have a representative as one of the mentors for Finnish Game Incubator. So more established game companies to Finland, more jobs, more new games. That's my idea here. So if you feel like this is something that you are doing, you have a team or company operating in Finland, you have a game project and something to show from it, anything goes. You're very much welcome to email me and tell me all about it. And I will gratefully take that to account for the next incubator program. So I wanted to go through very fast what is the game spaces. So in the very middle of the entire Tampere region, we have right next to Näsinneula, the gigantic tower you see in every vacation photo from here ever. We have 570 square meters of free office space. 18 months, no questions asked, as long as the game is good and you've got your team and you need the office space. We've got your office space. In fact, I'm actually recording from here, so it's pretty comfy. The chairs are, it's very, very good. Don't worry about it. And it's completely free, no questions asked, 18 months. Just let me know what kind of stuff you need and we will help you deliver it here. So we want people who are the most promising game teams. we can do direct intros to the most promising cases. We have done this a couple of times and it's always panned out. We can fund your legal fees. We can get you legal counsel. So you won't be struggling when you talk with a publisher about what to do, or maybe you're doing investors and then you need some eyes to look at it. We can help you with that. We will fund your legal fees. No questions asked. If it's promising enough, if it's good enough. So we can help with that. Finnish Game Incubator every year, free office space, networking events, all from Tampere Game Hub. So think seriously about Tampere being your next holiday destination and your game dev destination. A little bit about Platform 6 Startup House. We are in close cooperation. We actually kind of own the place, 33% of it. And that's right next to the railway tracks. A big, huge startup house that we use for events. And there's this very fun looking game lounge. I didn't take any good photos of it for this event, but trust me on this. It's got an Xbox. It's cool. So you can check Platform 6 website as well. That is full of startups other than just gaming startups. But a lot of gaming startups are already like in that building as well. As a final thing, in the future, there's going to be even more of this. We're turning 3 years next month, I think. So what we want to do is we will have these incubator programs and extend them a little bit. We will start to do business delegations to industry events. We want to connect these investors and publishers more directly to the developers. So we will ask them to come around Tampere Game Spaces, have a lunch with all the cool game companies here. And as an Indian, or any foreign national, I think like the biggest thing is just come out over here, check us out, any event, and start talking with us. Like, see the potential in another city, not just Helsinki. There's a lot more to Finland than just Helsinki. That's my cue, I think. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Tomi. I think most of the people developing games here are already considering moving to Tampere, or at least planning a tour soon. This was extremely insightful. If we could possibly take one question, if you have any, you can raise your hand, and the rest will have to be answered via chat only, since we're running a bit late on time.
Yeah.
But yes, as Akshay said, great energy, and it was I mean, you've been building games from since you were 8. That's quite that came as a shock to me as well, but definitely sees in the personality that you have.
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit that if there's no questions coming, I can just tell you that we didn't have money for a rewritable disk drive, so I used floppy disks. My first game was called basically Super Tomppa Saves the World. I was a narcissistic 8-year-old. With click and play. I didn't know how to code. I also did text adventures with QBasic. It's been very much fun. Hanna has raised a hand.
All right, Hanna, you could.
Sorry, I was just clapping to you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Is there any questions in the chat I can take? If there's one any questions here?
There is one from Shashank. How can one see possible collaboration with gaming companies in Finland in developing games that are based off concepts and ideas having some kind of cultural influence from India, which could interest global audience?
That's a great question. That's an exciting question. Like if you look at let's talk cultural imports here. Every culture has like tremendous potential to showcase all kinds of stuff. Like I'm thinking like Miss Marvel, for example, from Marvel just released, like that has caused a huge cultural impact. So imagine games having these seasons every month or so with live ops titles. Why couldn't you have an Indian culture season for any kind of game with outfits for the characters themed around those aspects of Indian culture that really resonate with global audience? For example, Rocket League could have an arena shape like with those all the cool cultural imports that you guys have. Like the biggest thing you could do is the sky's the limit. You just need to talk with the right people at the right time of the content pipeline, and you can just stick that in. I think that would be amazing to see a lot more like how do I say it, cultural impact from all fronts.
All right, thank you. Hope that answered your question, Shashank, and thanks a lot for joining us today, Tomi. Hope to connect with you soon again.
Yeah, see ya.
See you. Thank you. All right, we are running 10 minutes late, but I'm sure you guys are having fun, and it's adding a lot of value to what you guys are building. So without further ado, let me quickly jump to the next session that we have, which will be a moderated chat between Prakash Parthasarathy, who is the AVP at Dream Capital. He executes investments and mergers and acquisitions at Dream Sports, parent company of Dream 11, Fan Code, and DreamX. Along with him, we have Kashyap Reddy, CEO and co-founder at Hitwicket, who is on a mission to craft the most immersive experience for the billion cricket fans across the globe. And moderating this chat, we will have Vagish, my colleague from Headstart, who is really passionate about the gaming industry and has been building a startup in the gaming industry himself. He's done his master's in the same field. Without further ado, Vagish, why don't you take over from here and let's get started with the session.
Sure, so thank you so much, actually. Hey guys, hey Kashyap and Prakash. Thank you so much for taking your time to participate in this. So actually, when I first heard that we are doing this from Arzu and IFSH team, I was super excited because it is high time that we have a robust ecosystem focused on gaming, right, in India. So as the gaming industry is growing exponentially in India, since the past 5 years. In 2019-20, we had 40% increase in revenue, and it is predicted to become $5 billion industry in 2025, which is not very far away, right? So still we lack robust ecosystem, I think, right? So and also there is this sort of traditional stigma, which kind of people think that playing video games perhaps might be a waste of time, right? But it's far from the truth, actually. Playing games can kind of give you this never give up attitude, and especially when you play Elden Ring or games like that, and also good hand-eye coordination and so on. And most importantly, it is still not a mainstream sort of career path to people in India, right? So I think my first question to start off this session would be to kind of as front runners in this gaming industry, I think it will be great if you can share your journey, because that I think will sort of you guys are testament to the fact that you can not only build lucrative you can not only find lucrative opportunities in the gaming industry, but also can build massive business, especially in India, right? So why don't we start off with sharing your journey? Prakash, why don't you start first?
Okay, sure. So Vagish, just want to confirm with you, you want to speak a little bit more about how Dream 11 came into being, or more on the core gaming side?
Yes, actually, if we can focus gaming side more also, I think that will be great.
Yeah, so as you would appreciate, for the longest time, right, in India, we didn't have the right device, so to speak, to game also. I think every other country went from PC to console and then to mobile in terms of where the gaming audience lies, whereas we've started our journey on mobile itself. And how we've seen immense traction with cricket and fantasy at the Dream 11 space. But going beyond that now with Dream Capital, right, where we've launched this $250 million plus fund, to start with, to invest in this ecosystem, we see tremendous potential going all the way across the ecosystem, right? You spoke a little bit about people building a career here, but even something as simple as building those games for that 5-minute break during work or in college, even there is still immense scope across the casual genre, the mid-core genre, the hardcore genre, and of course building that esports team which can eventually maybe win Olympic gold also on top of those games. So that is where we see the most excitement, right? Like you're saying, there is no ceiling today for our industry, because there is, let's say, a couple of genres that have opened up. And obviously Kashyap will talk much better on this point, but even we don't even have the EA of sports gaming right now in India, right? So just the avenues to go beyond MOBA or Battle Royale, right, which is the really fleshed out esports category, there are so many other avenues right now to keep building that next unicorn, the next unicorn, the next unicorn. And that is essentially the thesis on which Dream Capital is built, right? Because today we believe the gaming talent is there in India. It's about finding that right mix, of being able to build that game of that level of virality that goes beyond the current arena that we're in, where we're able to build, let's say, something thematic that works, but at the same time, then build something scalable and take that beyond, right? So that is, I think, that the evolution journey that is going on, and entrepreneurs like Kashyap are starting to break that barrier and take that to the next level. So that is where we are very excited, on both fronts. Just to, summarize this, we've invested in a studio called Rolocule and rebranded that as Dream Game Studios, where we are building a mid-core cricket game, where we want to get EA-like quality on the mobile and kind of have the EA of cricket going on. And on the esports side, we are building a social app called So Strong, right? Super entrepreneurial guys who want to kind of build that esports ecosystem from the grassroots up. Their app is called IMBR. We started there, but like I was saying, we want to open up the next genre. Will it be MMORPG? Will it be pure RPG? Will it be something fun, mythological, or let's say a GTA based on the streets of Mumbai? We want to see that next stage of growth coming, and that's where we've sown a couple of seeds till now, but we really want to make 10 more investments at least and deploy a couple of 100 million more to kind of see that growth. And that's why it was very exciting to hear from the Finland side as well, to help us, get to that MVP stage, and maybe then we can work together to fund and really scale these businesses.
Amazing. Yeah. So, I mean, we all had, from the times of GTA Vice City, right? We always wanted a version which is focused in India. So, yeah, of course, So, moving to Kashyap, if you can share your journey on Hitwicket, I think that would be great.
What's up, Vageesh? Thanks a lot for having me over, you and the Headstart team. It's great to have events like this, right? I think this is how you build the ecosystem. I think.
Exactly.
So a little bit about my journey, ever since I was in school, I was 10 years old, where every notebook used to have a game in every page, right? I used to have a passion for designing board games, right? And it was something very deep for me and very interesting, and it's a bit of a quirky habit, right? But again, it's with the ecosystem that you're talking about. There's not much of awareness that this can actually be a career, right? So you look at it as a funky hobby and nothing more. So I became an engineer, just like most of India, because you don't know much else, right? I think that's where there's an awareness, bit of an awareness gap, right? And during the entire course of engineering, I was playing a lot of online games. I was playing a football manager game, which was one of the most popular in the world. It's actually based in Scandinavia, and I was the #1 gamer from India for that game, right? And during this entire course, I never once thought I would go on and build a game, because even I never knew that this could be like a industry, right? It's only much later when the IPL was launched, they're like, okay, let's build a game for cricket, and you're young and hungry, let's just try it out. So at that time, I was working in Sweden. I came back to India, and we started this journey with Hitwicket. My co-founder, she's a graduate of ISB. She was working at Amazon. I had to tell her, okay, mobile gaming is the next big thing, and why don't we start something here? And she was working at Amazon. She used to study at ISB. She saw that, this mobile gaming, the 5-minute gameplay session, it's magical, right? Suddenly, it's not just the young male audience playing on PC. It's like everybody, right? Even people who don't even consider themselves gamers are now playing. Right?
Exactly.
So let's build for this market, because they need a different sort of content itself, because the form factor changes the content, and you have to design the game for this content, right? And I can totally relate to what you were mentioning about the ecosystem and all, right? Now think about this. Gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and people still can't believe it's even an industry. Now, if you ask the masses, like, okay, is that even a business? Is that an actual business? Because initially, when we were recruiting freshers, I actually had to take a call to one very concerned dad who was worried that his son is working in an industry which is a non-industry, right? I actually had to chat with his dad and explain the nuances of what all actually happens in gaming, how big it is. So now we've gotten into the thing, whenever we recruit a fresher, we give them a one-pager. Hey, this is the one-pager about the industry. Go show it to your parents if you need it. Because people want to work here, but there's a lot of gap between the understanding. A bit of a generational gap, which is changing, right? I can tell you in the last 5-6 years, it's completely changing. People are becoming more and more proactive. They're seeing what PUBG has done. They're seeing what Dream 11 has done. And they're saying, okay, this can be massive, right? Dream 11 in particular, I think the most profitable unicorn. And I think that has pretty much set the benchmark. And it's making people think differently about gaming. And that, I think, is going to go a long way in what's going to happen over the next 10 years.
Amazing. Yeah. Rightly put, actually, like, ecosystem starts by interaction, right? Like, so what we are doing here, I think it's a really good first step, really good step, right? So yes, that was rightly said. And Prakash, I would like to kind of like, explore the investment angle, right, that you mentioned. So as you said, like, you were sort of like investing in So Strong and Dream Game Studios and so on. And also, like, I read that Dream Capital is setting up $250 million, right? For especially to be invested in the gaming industry, right? Can you kind of like share with us the mindset that you have over there? Like, why would you want to kind of like all the factors that lead you to kind of like invest in the gaming industry in India?
Got it. So how we are thinking about it is we see a number of blue oceans within gaming itself, right? Touching upon what we spoke about earlier, if we look beyond today in terms of, especially if I look at mid-core, beyond your BGMI and your CODM kind of titles, are there any real mid-core to hardcore sports where our Indian indigenous people are competing? Not so much, right? Football has FIFA, for example, and that was a very simple note of why we got into cricket, right? Because we needed to build that high-level cricket mid-core game and get us competing. So that's one blue ocean that we saw. The others that are still there are, for example, your MMORPGs also, right? They don't exist currently. World of Warcraft has been a phenomenon throughout the world, but there is a Wild Rift mobile version that may come to India, that may not. But there may also be someone in India who builds maybe a mythological Indian version of it. You don't know, right? That is just one simple example to say that. Similarly, there are games on the PC Steam side like Hades, right? Which have been multi-million-dollar titles based on Greek mythology. I think our mythology is equally rich. So can we leverage that to build RPG games? I think Raji, which was by Nodding Head Studio, was a very beautiful example of what can be built in that segment, right? So the offshoots are there. Similarly, like we discussed earlier, Kashyap's also building something very interesting in the strategy cricket segment, right? So there are a number of entrepreneurs who are coming up now, who have a right to win in understanding what the Indian audience wants to be built and building that. Because currently, some of our top games, other than are culturally, games like your Ludo and your Carrom, are games which we've taken directly from the skin of abroad and are playing those right now. So can we leverage what we, as a people like in terms of storytelling, in terms of where our fandom lies, and then use that to build games? Because that is the level of engagement that we can back beyond. And if we today take a step back and even see content plays out there, whether it be Microsoft, and now there are rumors of Facebook, everyone is now acquiring gaming studios as the next form of engagement, right? So this is where we see it very interesting. I'm not going to drop the buzzword of Web3 into this, but we do find the Web3 side of gaming also very exciting, which is why we have backed Rovio to build, gaming utilities on top of cricket rights that they have and launch their Web3 platform, which will be very interesting. But between these three things, we find that very exciting. And when they develop into esports properties, right, we would love to back software plays that help take those esports properties and elevate them to a status where as a goal, we are able to send someone to compete internationally and eventually win Olympic gold.
Yeah. So yeah, a couple of great points over there, right? Like, basically, first is India is not short of Indian civilization is not short of characters and like stories, basically, right? Sort of like spinning the game around our mythologies and our characters and those mythologies. Of course, it's like it can be a super hit. And secondly, esport is actually picking up the money that can be won, right? For example, the tournament for Dota, the international, right? So they had the total prize pool of $24 million, right? So it's massive money actually, and it's high time that India also kind of be involved in that, right? Interesting.
Yes.
So actually, Kashyap, I do have a question for you. So basically, when it comes to video games, there is this sort of interest decay factor, right? Sort of the replayability of most games are not not great. So, but with Hitwicket, actually, you do see that sort of freshness. Of course, cricket is a very known game for Indian audience and so on. But still, when you open the app, you do get that sense of oh, you know what, I'm excited to play this, right? So, for game developers, can you kind of give some tips on how you can achieve that sort of how you can increase the replay value for the games that they are building?
Got it. So from the onset, we've been very, very influenced about building the way Supercell goes about it, where they say, we want to build a game that people will play forever, right? They play for years, remember it forever. And I personally played a football manager game for more than 15 years. You see Clash of Clans has been going strong for even 10 years, right? And that's the amazing part when we talk about games are easy to make and okay, anybody can copy and things like that. But Clash of Clans has still been on top of the charts, right? It's a kindly micromanaged experiences is what makes a gaming a phenomenal product. And that's where we too bend our back to every single animation, micro animation, what is the order in which a pop-up needs to show up. All these things play a role in making the game fun. And the interesting thing is you no longer anyway think that, okay, you launch the game and that's it. I can tell you that launching the game is just the first 10%. Anybody can launch a game. The real action begins after you launch. It took us about 6 months to build Hitwicket Superstars. And for 2 years, we're still battling so much more that we can actually do because it still feels like it's still day one at Hitwicket. Because we need constant innovation because people taste change. As we keep seeing data, we have an ability to evolve. That's a tremendous power that you have. Every 2 weeks, we release an update. We look at our data and our data team and our product team that sit together. Hey, this is what seems to be happening here. This is what's telling us about the users. And based on that, we come up with the next set of changes, events, and things like that, right? So we must never pause, right? Because the moment you pause, it's like people lose interest and things like that. So constantly keep giving content. And as the game ages, the biggest challenge will be you'll have a set of elder users who've been playing the game for years, and then you have new users, right? How do you build so that both of them are taken care of? That's where we have split our internal product team into new users who are called openers. There's the openers team. And then you have the end user as the middle order team. They work in a very separate cultural philosophy in how they approach a problem. So constantly evolving, looking at what other games are doing, what are the most popular genres coming in, because for us in particular, we are looking cricket as a market rather than as a game studio that churns out multiple games. And we want to understand this end to end and keep evolving here.
Sure. Yeah. Well, understanding customers' needs and constant sort of update, of course, it keeps a game fresh. Thanks so much for that. So I guess it's time for us to wrap up, but I do have one last question for both of you, right? So if we can take 30 seconds each to perhaps give your inputs on how your basically prediction on gaming industry and also gaming entrepreneurship in India, I think that'll be great. As usual, Prakash, if you would like to start.
Sure. I don't want to get into specifics of predictions because that's how you get egg on your face, right? Every time. But on a more serious note, I do believe the genre is just going to open up. Like I said, sports, RPG, I don't even know what's next. AR, VR may become affordable in the next 3 or 4 years. So there will be 3 or 4 other games that build that 100, 200 million plus MAU base and can build significant revenues, right? And that is how we will start looking closer and closer to where China's industry was, let's say 5 years ago. I truly, truly believe that. And from an esports perspective also, we will hopefully in the next 5 years have a couple of guys competing in the Asian Games now, because we have a couple of our titles there. So that is honestly where I see the industry going.
Super. Yeah. So Kashyap, your thoughts, please.
So I think the people end up making the industry, I feel, and particularly when the talent is coming up in India, as I said, some of the cream of our talent is now getting into gaming. The best engineers from India are now making games. So you're finally going to see some world-class titles that make a mark on the global level, right? And that is definitely going to happen. I can see signs of that happening. The quality of conversations that people are having is a pure indicator of that. And interestingly, even Government of India launched their App Innovation Challenge 2 years back, where gaming was a category. And the government is saying gaming is important. Instantly, we won that contest. And that was actually a significant moment because people realized that it's not just about something fun, it's something important at a national level. So once you have talent coming in, it's just the industry is just going to get bigger and bigger. What you saw with e-commerce happened 10 years back, I think gaming industry and India is going to be at that level. Technology-wise, we've always had the talent. Entertainment and movies, we've already been exporting it for decades. It's just an intersection. And right. So it's going to be a very natural flow from there.
Super, yeah. It was amazing talking with you both, like, brilliant points actually. So, with games which are kind of like, spun around Indian mythologies and civilizations and, which relates to Indian sentiments and Indian crowd, like getting into esports more as a mainstream sort of like, not just a hobby, but a lucrative career path, right? I think these are still awaited. So I think it will come much sooner than we are expecting. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I guess like I'll say bye for now, and perhaps we can get ready for the next section.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Thank you.
So yeah, that was a very interesting conversation. So I guess like, as we are pretty low on time, without further ado, I'll move on to the next section. So we are now going to talk about Finnish game industry's talent marketing, right? So for that, we have a person called Oleg Paliy. Oleg basically like, heads a talent agency called Games Factory Talents, which is based in Helsinki. They specialize in scouting and helping talents all over the world to land a job at one of the leading game studios in Helsinki and Finland. Game Factory Talents also was nominated for the best recruitment agency in gaming industry by Pocket Games Connects 2019. So with that brief introduction, let me welcome you, Oleg. Am I saying the name right, Oleg Paliy? Super.
Yeah, I previously worked for Nokia, and you called me Oleg Paliy, but every time I was visiting Bangalore for business trips, I spent a lot of time there. They were calling me there Oleg Paliy. I don't know why, but this was, but I was called. It's just a weird name, so surname. So no worries.
I mean, it's still important to get it right. So I just wanted to double check. So,
yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so I think like,
thank you for checking in advance. I have to say.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess like, let's jump on to Q&A mode, right? So the first question I have over here is like, I want to ask what kind of talent the Finnish gaming industry is looking at the moment.
Yeah, so maybe I do first like a quick introduction, and basically, yeah, we've been running this company, or I co-founded this company almost 4 years ago, and basically our idea there has been is that since the games industry was growing so fast, and it is growing still. So there's a lot of demand for the talents. So basically our idea has been that there are a lot of recruitment agencies and companies recruit different ways, but we wanted to maybe improve a little bit how we look at the recruitment from the talents perspective. That's why we are called Games Factory Talents. So basically we have certain things that I believe that we improved. Maybe that's the reason why we still exist after 4 years and keep growing. Yeah, we've been working with all the major Finnish game studios, helping them to attract talents from all over the world. Actually, we hired quite many talented Indian game developers, not only game developers, artists and things like that, but very much like games industry focused, not only like from everywhere. I know that some of them have been continue working with the Finnish studios also remotely, which is totally fine with us. That's why it's a pleasure that you contacted me. And yeah, I have to say that it's a super fantastic. There's a big games industry hub there in India with like some very famous names. I think all the leading game studios in the world have the operations. And yeah, no wonder why. So fantastic talent, what can I say? And we are trying to tap into that market every time we do something. But yeah, what comes to the talent, so basically I can tell you that even though the Finnish games industry has been traditionally very much mobile driven, just because of Nokia maybe, that the games for the mobile platform were created because of Nokia when they came up with that Engage device, which was very much like games industry oriented, and this was basically like the idea. So today, the biggest demand that we feel in the games industry is actually more towards PC and console. So Unreal Engine developers, there's always demand for senior Unity developers constantly. But what we see more and more is the demand for gameplay, network engineers in the Unreal Engine like environment. So basically C++, C# for Unity, of course. And an interesting observation that we see today is that since the platform's becoming more and more complex, so there's a very big demand for the technical art. So somebody who is skilled in the art side, right? But at the same time, who can look at the code and make sure that the art performs the way it's supposed to perform. So somebody who is also hands-on, doesn't have to be like a coder, but somebody who could look basically into the engine and understand like certain things. There's always demand for UA and marketing talents, those that understand and have hands-on experience with running UA campaigns specifically for the games market. Yeah, I think that would be my like takeout. Of course, there's always need for the artists, especially if the studios are growing. Basically the pain that they've seen, and we are trying to help them, is that if the game is growing, then you need more and more of that art pipeline. So I would say that's also been growing pretty rapidly. And backend engineers, backend developers, there's more demand than there are ever like possibly to satisfy, because all the games want to use more and more of the backend power. So backend developers like basically as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and also now that we are seeing many game developers are utilizing Unreal Engine 5, right? And its potential, and also many of Indian engineers are also like, starting to get into those kind of like platforms actually. So yeah, engineers are and the artists basically, right? So yeah, super. Moving on to the second question, like, I wanted to ask, like, you are kind of like scouting and like, sort of finding talents all over the world, right? Like, what are all the various challenges that you're facing in this?
Oh my God, I mean, there's a lot, right? Where do you start? there's a lot of like, I mean, always a lot of challenges, right? The first challenge is that maybe because it's games industry, it's naturally attracts a lot of people, but in the end of the day, companies, when they come to us, they look for a very specific talent, or like Unreal Engine 5 developers with a certain, let's say, like networking capabilities or understanding and things like that. So I think that's, and since the technologies are quite new, I would say that any sourcing tools that we use is not maybe helping. So we need to look at the different ways how to find that talent. Of course, we are looking at LinkedIn, we have a growing database and everything, but still it's like new technologies come. I think that new technologies comes to the games, and I would say entertainment or AR, XR, because it's basically based also on the Unreal Engine. So I feel that it's more and more like a demand in there. So that also makes it maybe difficult, and it evolves so fast that like to find the people who actually have those skills, so to say. But one interesting way that I wanted to tell you how we try to tackle this is that apart from this recruitment that we do and scout the talents, 2 times per year we organize the biggest, I think, like a game show fairs. In April, we just hosted one with 40 studios and 2,216 games industry talents. A lot of them were from India, from all over the world, basically. And we realized that even though there are naturally in the games industry more artists than there are jobs, but it is still very difficult to guess or to grasp the idea from just looking at their portfolio whether they have the art style the company is looking for. That's why, for instance, in April, what we did, we actually gathered 3 studios from Europe, Iceland, Finland, and Germany. And we asked their art leads to give the test assignment, or like to give a brief, right? The brief based on their game, in the game art style, to give a brief. And basically this way, we ran the challenge. And wow, I mean, we got fantastic like submissions, fantastic work delivered. And that, the feedback that we got, we realized that this actually could be a very interesting and new way to actually recruit the talents, not just looking at their portfolio and judging whether he or she has the skills I'm looking for, or whether this is the same art style we're looking for, but rather actually see the outcome of their work. So that was something like interesting, because even though there are a lot of artists, there are not that many jobs. It's very like each company is very specific. You really need to be like deep inside to understand. And at the same time, I think the challenges is just that the demand is so huge. You see, like companies and the talents, if they have very specific skills. Today, especially those seniors, right? Because that's what the companies are looking for. Typically is that they want somebody to come and do the job instead of somebody comes and learns. So it's in different stages. So I would say that's the challenge. These talents are so much in demand that typically they get like few offers already from the company. So they are choosing the one to basically the company that he or she wants to join. Like if the project is interesting, is the team good enough and things like that. So that's why I think it's a little bit like twisted in a way. Yeah. And of course, the demand that we're trying, the other challenge that we are trying to overcome is that we are trying to push. Of course, we can't like push, but we are trying to facilitate that the companies to take in more juniors. That is something, because there are a lot of juniors who want to get into the games industry, and then they get frustrated because they didn't get the internships or they couldn't join and things like that. So that's another thing that we faced, that juniors are there. The demand is big, but the companies are too busy developing games instead of actually like teaching someone to join. So I would say these are the typical.
Super, yeah. Actually, like, even when we were in the US, like, just as soon as we kind of like completed a master's in game design, like, it was a bit hard to kind of like, get relevant jobs in the game industry, right? So I do kind of like, relate to that. So super. So and also like people who would want to move there, like I'm sure they'll be interested in the work culture, right, in the Finnish game industry. So can you elaborate more on that, like, if you can?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think everybody's in the Finnish games industry looking at Supercell, right? How they do, and their CEO is kind of looking at this from like that different perspective. So I think that everyone kind of want to maybe try to follow it, but basically I would say the culture here is that you need to be trusted, so like a little guidance in a way, like a responsibility, right? So you don't have like a boss who's going to tell you every day like what you need to do, kind of a way, right? So it's a rather collaborative environment. We're here in the same boat, so to say, right? So we are rowing, we just need to have that direction. So basically maybe to be a little bit self-taught, a little bit self-motivated, ask questions all the time. I think that's like in probably in any industry is that, and if you wanted to succeed, I mean, don't be afraid of the stupid questions, because I think that's how you kind of get the understanding, because we could look at same thing but understand it differently. But basically, yeah, the studios are super flat. I would say there's no boss, like there's nobody who is going to be like micromanage you kind of way. But at the same time, right, if you hit something or a problem, you need to basically like a speak up, or take initiative to find the solution, apart from just waiting that somebody's gonna tell you like what to do. That would be my kind of basically thinking. And since like in Finland people very much value that work-life balance, right? So I mean, we're a company of 6, right? And we have 2 ladies from India working with us, based here in Finland. So it's been amazing, also talent for us. So if we want to maintain as a small company, right? So what we decided to do is that, okay, we're all online at that time. And this is the time that we work. And then this is the time that we rest or kind of take care. We'll have families. Yeah. And other things to do. So
work-life balance, it is actually like super important, like and also nowadays from I mean these things like work from home, like we are not having an exact schedule, right? So we've been kind of like working more than we did when we went to office. Yes, that's right. And also to kind of like wrap up this section, like if we can take like last 30 seconds, right? Can you list some like sort of relocation services which can be available for the talents entering Finland?
I mean, we've done some relocations in the very beginning when we got started, because we hired talents from abroad and companies were happy, and then they asked us to do it. So we relocated, I think, 2 or 3 talents ourselves, and then we realized that that is not something that we want to do, because it's a different business, like apartments, kindergartens, and things like that. So I know that there are a few relocation agencies that do it, but my experience has been when we relocated the talents and agreed everything with the studios that were hiring these talents from us, that we did like we found the apartment for 1 or 2 months. I don't recall it like exactly. I think it's something to discuss, so that the studio kind of rented that apartment,
right,
made that down payment to keep it open. And then within this 1-2 months, the talents were able to find the apartments that they like more or something like that. So that was the first thing. Then this relocation services they help is that basically there's they take care of, like, they help you to apply for like schools, right, kindergartens and things like that. And then there's a very interesting and very important initiative taken by the city of Helsinki, is that there is a spouse program called like a spouse program. So those spouses that relocate to Finland, right? So that they build the community, they have some educational sessions. They also help them to find the jobs, right? Because the only way that talent is going to be successful, right? And that hire is going to be successful is that he is happy. He doesn't have to think that like his mind needs to be here, right? So his family needs to be safe, comfortable, enjoying the life here. Then it's a success case, because we did have cases like that, exactly that when the talents relocated, there were no yet spouse program. So basically when they relocated, they stayed here for like 6 months or something like that. And then they moved back because his wife wasn't happy. He wasn't happy at home, so he had to take that move. So in the end of the day, it was like a lose-lose situation for everyone, right? For the whole thing. So now there's like a super cool initiative by the city of
super
Helsinki.
brilliant points, Oleg. Actually, like thank you so much for your time. So since we are kind of like running short of time, I'm afraid we have to say bye for now. So thank you so much, Oleg, again. Like just if you can write, if you can post your link from the chat, I think like it will be easy for people to reach out to you also. Or if you would prefer email also, if you can post it on the chat, it will be great.
Yeah, there's something that we're working on. So like the last piece that I'm gonna say, if you're interested about these career opportunities and get to know the companies, join these events that we do. So next one is going to be in October, and it's called Games Job Fair. You can Google it. Basically, it's run online. And you can join, see the companies, see what they do, connect with them, get hired and relocated, not only to Finland, but to the whole Nordics, because there are studios from the whole Nordics joining. Cool, but hey, thanks for having me here.
Thank you so much, Oleg. Yeah, nice meeting you. So yeah, with that, I think like, let's wrap up this session, and Arzu, over to you. Perhaps we can take it to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
And thank you, Vagish, for moderating the chat. I'll quickly move to our next session, the last one for the day, which I also believe is a very interesting one for people who are developing games in India. Let me quickly bring Sarah on. Yeah, she's here. Hi, Sarah. So Sarah is from Helpshift, and she is the senior marketing manager there. And today she'll be, as you can see, she'll be taking us through how to deliver the best game experiences faster. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much. Great session today. I'm really happy to be here. As you said, I run partner marketing, which means that we work closely with the gaming ecosystem to provide ways of making better games faster and provide the best player experience in the game. So for the ones on the call who may not know who Helpshift is, you probably actually used us in your favorite games, because we power a lot of the most popular games in the world. Basically, if you go into the chat and need to contact their support, it's very likely that it will say powered by Helpshift, and we support this experience. So these logos on the slide are only a small fraction of the gaming companies that are using Helpshift, and it goes from indie to quadruple A studios. And we help them collect better player feedback, but also power a better player experience in their game. We have a patented AI technologies, which allows gaming studio to collect the player feedback, save time and scale their player support operations, whilst reducing player churn and increase the CSAT score. So I put this slide to just understand a bit more like where we usually get integrated into the games. You can see we come into the picture when they start testing the games with Helpshift Feedback Plus. And then we also come into the picture just about the launch of the game with the in-game player support. I also added the Unity Verified Solution Partner, which is a huge achievement, and we are fairly proud of that. Their quality standards are very stringent, as you can imagine. And so what this means is they give us a stamp of approval to selected technologies, ensuring that our SDK is compatible and it complies and works well with Unity's latest releases. So it guarantees that there is no developer downtime ever. So we're going to be focusing on the player feedback first. And this is critical to game success and the adoption of the game. It's also a huge challenge to actually collect. First of all, it's never easy to receive negative feedback, even as a person, but also as a developer, it's not an easy thing to get when it's criticism. But it's even harder when you're trying to find it online, and players usually go and spread it on forums, on Discord, social channels, on the app stores. But the worst type of feedback is silence, when you actually don't get any feedback. So as a matter of fact, the most underreported player issues that we find are bugs, errors, and crashes of the games. Obviously, they can't report the problem if their game has just frozen, and they might just want to go back to the game experience and probably won't take the time to let you know that they had a buggy experience with your game. But maybe it's too hard or too time consuming for them to give you this feedback. They might be frustrated, and sadly, most of the time, they might actually uninstall the game. So the player experience will literally make or break your retention funnel, and well-executed feedback loop and player support can help you guarantee that your game will have longevity and drive the financial success that you're expecting. So the feedback will help your developers obviously build better games. It will help your QA teams to replicate all the bugs, and help your support staff to address the frustrations of the players, which can be hurtful for your brand. The first 5 minutes quotes that I put there illustrate this point quite nicely. And the first elements that we usually focus on with the feedback is the game stability. So identifying the bugs, the severity, the player status, and being able to replicate and drive to a resolution process as quickly as possible. And that will obviously impact the player retention. So it's super important to catch them as early as possible, because if you have to fix those errors in production later down the line, it's going to be more painful, reflect poorly on your brand, and it's going to cost a lot more. And that's why we think it's critical to catch them early and continuously. It's never an ending process. You have to keep an eye on those bugs, obviously. But this is not the full picture. And where Helpshift really shines, it's about understanding the player sentiment. Like, you have the bugs, they have an issue with the game, but you want to understand also, is your game compelling? Is it too easy to play, too hard? Are the weapons or characters that you have interesting enough? Is there bullying issues in your game, cheating concerns? So those are the keys to unlock the game potential to really scale and grow at speed by limiting the churn rate and understand the player frustrations. It's too hard to drive user acquisition, and it costs too much, that it would be a shame to then waste all those investment and letting your players just escape and leave your game. So the final piece of the feedback is about trying to increase the quality and the quantity of the feedback that you receive. I was recently speaking with a developer, and they are literally pulling their hair out. They get so frustrated by the vague feedback that they receive, and they can see online on Discord, app stores, and it's just impossible for them to fix it when they don't have all the context and all the information. So the advantage of having an SDK that is pulling all the information from your apps, actually, I'm going to show that a bit later down the line, but it helps you collect all those metadata and improving the feedback that you collect. So it's really important, in our opinion, also to keep your players in your game. Like, too often we see games where you have to leave the app, you have to leave the game either to give your feedback or to receive support. And the whole point of your game is to have your players play it. So our foundation is to try to help keeping players in the game from the moment that you start testing to the moments that you actually go live and have your players, we try to help keep them in the game. So the user feedback is literally the flywheel of your product innovation. It will help you before you launch to nail your product market fit and really confirm the product vision and the game vision that you have, if it's working, or it will help you to iterate faster. It also helps when Apple rejects like roughly 40% of the game submission when you submit a new game. Having a feedback loop in place and a better quality of your games will help you to increase this chance and odds of getting it approved straight away. And it also helps removing the friction between like the player feedback that you receive and the QA teams and the developer. As I was explaining, you can collect metadata that are directly embedded into the app of your players. So you will know straight away if they were playing on an iOS device, Android, which software version, how much memory they have, Wi-Fi, cellular, like basically all the information that you need that you wouldn't always have to ask otherwise. And you also get some context information about your players. So you will know whether they are a whale or they are a non-spending player. So you can basically prioritize the feedback based on the players that matters most. Like if all your whales are reporting an issue, you should focus on that first because they are the ones spending the most in your game, obviously. So scalability, quality, time and budgets are very critical aspects in every testing project. And these items, they matter regardless of where you are in your release cycle. Like it's an ongoing problem that you have to focus on. And so because you gather this feedback in-app, you have all the data to troubleshoot faster. And that leads to faster error resolution and a better player experience. You're going to be removing all this back and forth, asking your testers for all the details. And when you look at the size of the beta tests, going to like 500 beta testers and more, you could receive all sort of feedback from different channels, which makes it difficult to gather. And we're basically helping you to accelerate this time to release, and having a bug reporting standardized will help you like save up to 45% of time. So those are actual clients of Helpshift that were clients more on the player experience side. And those quotes were done even before we launched the feedback product. But as you can see, they're all like head of customer support, head of support. And they all captured the value of using the data that you get from the player experience issues that they're reporting to you and feeding that back all the way to the development teams, helping them to stay ahead of the competition and helping them to squash bugs and continuously improving their games. So those are some of the workflows and themes that we suggest to collect bugs that are in line with the 3 elements that I was talking about previously. And you shouldn't stop at just collecting the data. Obviously, you then need to take action on that. So we have some processes to help the entire organization to actually act upon this feedback, and maintaining a bug log, recording, reviewing, and prioritizing the bugs that you need to work on first, because not all bugs are created equal, depending on who is raising the issue. So you can use smart views and filters in Helpshift to organize the feedback. And so you can see the ones that have high ratings, low ratings, from which device they came in, iOS, Android, PC console, and all that. So that covers the feedback elements of the presentation, and that's before the launch. Obviously, it's a continuous system that you need to keep in place as you go live. But then once you start having your player coming into your game and you launch your game, it can't be an afterthought. I know it takes so much time to develop games and then to test them, and then by the time you go live, you have to think yet about the live experience. But we suggest to have a system in place to support players before the launch, so you can make sure that you're retaining those users before they start playing your game. So having a frictionless in-game player experience helps keeping the player in the game and helps to resolve the issues faster. And it provides unlimited scale. I know the whole gaming industry is struggling with resources, especially when you suddenly have a game that is widely successful, like if you're the next Pokemon Go and you need to deal from one day to another with hiring a lot of support people that speaks multiple languages. So having a technology in place that help you scale through the ups or downs seamlessly and frictionlessly will improve your satisfaction of your players. It also improves your agent productivity because they gather also a lot of information about your players, and that a lot of things that you can do by self-serving, and you will have a better time to first response and resolution time. It also helps having a good triage in place because basically you can categorize the issues that are coming in, and if you want to have a different approach, supporting the whales and the most valued players that you have in your game, or if you want to have a different path to resolution for your freemium players. So this is the modern customer in-game support journey that we recommend to take player from, and it helps to get resolution as fast as possible so they can go back to doing what they were doing, which is playing. And it's a logical progression, which starts with the player in the game and provide that player support experience in the game at each step of the way. They will solve their problem, but if they don't, then they will just go to the natural next step to troubleshoot as fast as possible. And the SDK is where the magic starts and everything happens when the developer integrates it in their games. It's super easy to deploy and to maintain. And so basically, the user starts from the help center where they can troubleshoot everything on their own. It's really the first line of defense. If you look at Playrix, who I showed earlier, they have 90% of their issues that they resolved by self-service, which allow their agent to focus on the issues that really need a human to help them resolve that. Smart Intents is a patented tool that Helpshift has created that helps determining the player intent and route it to the best path to resolution, so doing a better triage. Then you have Quick Search Bots, which is designed for players like me, for instance, who don't necessarily have the time or can't be bothered sometimes to read FAQs. Again, it's the first line of defense that will help get a faster resolution. And then custom bots, they drive self-service and better player and agent outcomes. And all that is powered with a industry-leading ticket platform for the agents to manage the ticket from your players. And then, of course, I mentioned the feedback in the first part, but we also help gathering feedback from your players about the support experience, so you can improve that area of your game over time as well. So this slide is particularly interesting because it shows from our top 100 customers, the split of issues that they receive, and honestly, like the scale of issues that we receive from our customers is just huge. We have most of the biggest gaming studio in the world, all having their players send issues to them through Helpshift. And what we found is that 40% of those issues reported are around bugs, freeze, shutting down, not loading. They're all about gameplay issues and feedback. This is why we created this product called Feedback Plus. which is actually a free SDK that we offer. I forgot to mention that for developers. So with that, here is the link to access the free Feedback Plus SDK if you want to give it a go and try it out. We can also set up a more in-depth demo and show you some of the work that our clients are doing with Helpshift. I've added my email address as well to the deck in case you have any questions after this session. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. This was very insightful, and I'm sure a lot of game developers are going to agree with me here. We have unfortunately overshot time by 15 minutes, but I'm glad some of you could still stay back, and really happy to have had an engaging session today. And do contact Sarah for anything to do with developing games and how Helpshift can come into that journey. And we'll talk a bit more about it in our thank you email shortly. Thanks for joining us today, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
All right, probably Hannah, do you want to give some thought about the session today, and we'll end it right there.
Thank you, Arzu. Just really big thank you to all the great presenters. They were all great, and also for the really active participants. We had really lively discussion in the chat, a lot of questions for our presenters. So really happy about today's session. I added a feedback questionnaire to the chat, so please provide us feedback so we will know what to do perhaps differently next time. But thank you very much from our side.
Thanks a lot. Have a good evening, guys.